Everyone. So good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to our live virtual trademark event with the Society of Professional Women. I'm Nicole Stevenson, the director of the SPW program at the Mainline Chamber of Commerce. Before we begin today officially, I'd like to take a minute to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to be here. This program would not be possible without the continued support of our members and our community, and most of all, our sponsors. Their involvement keeps SPW and the Chamber going. So allow me to share my screen and thank all the sponsors that continue to support our mission, which is to accelerate the advancement and expand the influence of women leaders of all professions and generations, strengthen our business community, and support the region's nonprofits. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to bring up this video, and I'd like to thank B101 for providing this video for us today. I'm going to hit share my screen now. Where are you? There it is. There it goes. I hope you can all see that. And here we go.
Guys, I'm Jen Ryan. So I am Jen from Jen and Bill in the Morning here on Philly's B101.1. And B101 is so happy to be a sponsor of the Society for Professional Women. And we want to welcome you to today's event, which could not happen without our sponsors. So I'd like to take a minute right now to thank them. The champion sponsor, Wells Fargo. Communication sponsor, Comcast Business. Employee benefit sponsor, USI Affinity, My Benefit Advisor. Women's health sponsor, Mainline Health. Diamond sponsors, B101.1, Women Helping Women sponsor, Fidelity Investments. And education sponsor, St. Joseph's University. And now our platinum sponsors, Stradley, Ronan, Stevenson, Young.
Hi guys, it's Bill Taffaro from the Jen and Bill Show on Philly's B101.1. Thank you so much for listening to us every morning. And right now, I'd like to thank the gold sponsors of today's program. 1847 Financial, Closets by Design, Enterprise Holdings and Fleet Management, First Trust Bank, Mainline Today, Montgomery County Community College, MRS Audio, TechWise Group, UGI AmeriGas, United Healthcare, Univest Corporation, Valley Forge Casino Resort, and Vertex.
And thank you to our silver sponsors, Aqua, CSL Bayring, Devereaux Advanced Behavioral Health, Ernst & Young, Giant, Lord & Taylor, Morton's The Steakhouse, Pico, Pictures by Todd Photography, Seasons 52, Suburban Square, Valley Forge Tourism and Convention Board, and WSFS Bank.
Okay, great. So that worked. Yay. So thank you all so much for your patience with me with the technology today. I wanted to also acknowledge a few of our additional sponsors. Aqua is now an essential utilities company. We obviously recorded this video in advance, so I wanted to acknowledge that. We have a new silver sponsor, Villanova College of Professional Studies, and we have event sponsors Camelot Auction House and Lincoln Financial Group supporting the program today. So silent clap for all of them. Thank you so much. We are really proud to announce that our annual SPW supplement published by Mainline Media News has been released. You can find a digital copy of that at our website, spwmainline.com. It's a great way to learn more about the SPW program, our mission, our goals, our extensive programming that we've already planned for 2021 and the sponsors that are supporting that program. And we encourage you to save the dates for 2021 now. And we hope that we'll be able to offer them in person, but we know that we can continue virtually for the health and safety of our community if necessary. The Mainline Chamber of Commerce staff is prepared to continue working hard to bring people together for valuable connections and content on multiple fronts. Please visit our website, mlcc.org, and sign up for our emails to stay informed. Today is our last SPW event for 2020. Our next SPW trademark event is already scheduled for Wednesday, January 13th, and that will be with #1 New York Times bestselling author Jennifer Weiner. You can register now for that already at spwmainline.com. I also wanted to share that we're now recruiting for our Women Helping Women mentoring program. This is an excellent way to invest in talent and offers professional development through a confidential and intimate forum of peers from an array of industries that will accelerate an individual's full potential in the workplace. And you can reach out to me directly at nstevenson@mlcc.org for an overview or an application to that program. You can continue to help us serve you by communicating with the Mainline Chamber of Commerce and our staff, taking our surveys, and also by interacting with us and others on social media using our hashtags, hashtag MLCC and hashtag SPW Mainline. Thanks again for your support. So before introducing today's esteemed guest, I'd like to review a few of our housekeeping items. There is a chat and Q&A function at the bottom of your screens. Please remember when you're submitting questions that you use that Q&A function as to not get lost in the chat function when it's time to get to them. Dr. Perkins will answer a few questions for about 10 minutes after the event today. And in order to continue our efforts to network and connect with individuals, we will be sending the attendee list from today to all our attendees and sponsors with information on how you can identify up to 2 individuals that you would like to have a 15-minute conversation with. And we'll try to put you in touch with at least 1 or 2 of your choices. You'll also receive a recording of today's program, and it will be available on spwmainline.com. And we will also be hosting breakout sessions after the Q&A today. There will be a moderator in each room to direct the conversation. Thank you to our volunteers for helping with that today. And each attendee will have the opportunity to introduce themselves and their company. And then the moderator will lead the conversation with a proposed question to engage in a dialogue between the group of individuals. The link for the meeting rooms will be provided in the chat function now and at the end of the formal program today. Please save this link to the meeting now so that you can access it easily. And I'll begin the meeting all together before we split everyone into groups. So please be patient while we're waiting for everyone to make the transition to join. As most of you know, giving back to the nonprofit community is a big part of the SPW mission. Today, we'd like to highlight Public Citizens for Children and Youth. PCCY works to improve the lives of our region's children by developing initiatives and advocating for quality healthcare, childcare, public education, and family stability. Visit pccy.org for more information. I'd like to welcome and thank Dr. Yolanda Florina Perkins for your flexibility while working with me to bring an engaging presentation to our audience. And thank you for your transparency and vulnerability of sharing such a personal and transformational message for our audience today. Over the course of such a challenging year, we are really appreciative of your time and attention and look forward to learning from you. At SPW, we are proud to partner with so many companies that live our mission and vision. Our communication sponsor, Comcast Business, is one of those partners. It's my pleasure to introduce Field Sales Director Barry Levin to provide updates and introduce today's speaker. Welcome, Barry.
Thank you, Nicole. Once again, my name is Barry Levin, and I'm the Regional Sales Director for Comcast Business here in the Greater Philadelphia region. Comcast Business is proud to be the official communication sponsor for SPW in 2020, and we have had a long, fruitful partnership with SPW and the Mainline Chamber of Commerce for the past 7 years. We are extremely grateful for this and also for the opportunity to speak to you all here today. While the 7th year of this partnership has been much different than the previous 6, for each of our organizations, we continue to collaborate effectively and have had great success helping SPW members with their business needs. Comcast Business's mission throughout these challenging times has been to not only help businesses, got a little message on my computer here. Okay. Has been to not only help businesses bounce back, but bounce forward. Through our partnership with SPW, we have been truly able to connect with the local community through their events, networking, and overall engagement. At Comcast Business, we provide advanced communication solutions that allow our business customers to stay connected to the internet, to data centers, to customers, to suppliers, and to a remote workforce. So when connectivity matters, you can count on us. If you have any business needs, please don't hesitate to reach out. And now it is my pleasure to introduce you to today's keynote speaker. In the world of triumphant stories, Dr. Yolanda Florina Perkins has a story of resilience, courage, and victory. During her senior year of college at the University of Central Florida, Dr. Perkins found herself dealing with the pain and consequences of her choices. She was found with stolen mail and credit cards in her possession. After spending 3 years in federal prison, she was determined to make a mark and change her life. After her release, Dr. Perkins completed her undergraduate studies in criminal justice and continued to receive 2 master's degrees, one in health service administration and another in human resource management. She is a recent doctoral graduate in education with a concentration in organizational leadership from Nova Southeastern University. She is a prolific author and speaker inspired to share her struggles and her successes with millions around the world. Dr. Perkins authored her initial book entitled Consequences and presented a TEDx talk on putting out the fire of adversity. She is the co-author of She Conquered and released a new book in July of 2019 titled Now, My Journey, Your Lessons. In addition to writing inspirational books and speaking on influential stages, Dr. Perkins owns a swim accessory brand called Swimmy Caps. She is venturing into other brands for Black and brown children to include Undies by Blendy Tone, a new underwear line for kids, and Blendy Tone Bandages, an adhesive bandage line. Dr. Perkins has been featured in Black Enterprise, Parents Latina Magazine, ABC News, Good Morning America, Yahoo Lifestyle, Local Fox 4 Now, and NBC2 in Fort Myers. She is a mom to 2 kids, Dwight and Bella. She's married to her husband, Dwight, and her family resides in Southwest Florida. Please join me in welcoming to the virtual experience, Dr. Yolanda Florida Perkins.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Listening to her read the bio, it never, I always say to myself, is that really me? Did I really experience these things? But I did, and I'm excited to be here. So thank you, Nicole, for this opportunity. Thank you for reaching out to me. Thank you for just the opportunity to be able to share, and hopefully that at the end of all of this, that someone will be inspired or share my experience to inspire or encourage someone else to never give up.
Great. Thank you. So did you want to share anything before I bring Carol in, or are we ready to get the interview started?
We're ready to get there, ready to go. I'm ready to go.
Okay. For many Delaware Valley listeners, Carol McKenzie's voice is the first they hear on a weekday morning. McKenzie joined the KYW News Radio staff as a morning anchor in 2003. A native of Lancaster, PA, she has a BA degree in communications from the University of Delaware and an MA from Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism. She has enjoyed a long career as a reporter and anchor in both radio and television. Her documentary, Honduras, Mission of Hope, about a local group of volunteers who set up free medical and dental clinics, won awards from the Pennsylvania Association of Broadcasters, the RTNDA, and Women in Communication. Although she has enjoyed getting to know the people in different towns and cities, Carol is glad to be back home in Pennsylvania. Let's give Carol a warm welcome, and you can begin when you're ready, Carol.
Hi, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this. This is awesome. And I had the pleasure of talking to Dr. Yolanda yesterday, and I'm telling you, you're in for a treat. She's a warm, authentic person with a really incredible message to share. Dr. Yolanda, if we could take it back kind of to the beginning of your story and tell us a little bit. I know you said you always are surprised when you hear people talking about you, that it's you. And I think, like, from where you are today, when you look back on where you were when you were 23, you've got to think, wow, like what a journey you've had. So can you take us back to your 23-year-old self?
Sure. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands that, you know, a lot of times we hear these stories of individuals that have been incarcerated or what have you. I just want everyone to know that, for me, in my situation, I was fortunate. I was very blessed, and I was raised with both parents in the household. And so, I didn't have a reason to do what I did. I didn't have anything to blame it on. I couldn't say that, I was raised in, a single parent household, or I experienced violence and all of this in my household bringing up. So, so I want to make sure I share that. There was nothing that my parents did wrong for my upbringing. I think we all just get to a point where we leave our parents' household, become an adult, and we think we know everything. And we make those decisions. But, you know, I learned very quickly at an early age that sometimes the decisions that we make are not always the best. And so at 23, while many may not could comprehend, or while many may not understand, I was dealing with a lot of self-esteem issues. You know, in my household coming up, or in my Black family household, we didn't talk about emotional issues. We didn't talk about self-esteem issues. It just wasn't discussed. It wasn't, no one, you know, we didn't talk about going to see, you know, a therapist or anything like that. So, you know, if there was an issue, you just had an issue, no one knew. So I had an underlying issue that I did not know that it even exists until after the fact. And so one of the challenges that I faced was coming from a small town into this huge, big city in Orlando, where now I'm seeing other girls, and these girls are pretty, and I'm thinking I'm not as pretty as these girls, and what can I do to get more attention? And then that mindset continued. And all it took was for one guy to give me the attention that I thought I needed or thought I wanted. And I wanted to do whatever I could at that moment to please him. And if that meant engaging in something illegal that I knew that wasn't right, that I knew that had some severe consequences behind it if I got caught, and I did, I knew that, you know, it didn't matter. It didn't matter to me, because I wanted to do whatever I wanted to do for him to like me, for him to want to be with me, and for any people to just want to be around me. I was a people pleaser. And so, you know, that's kind of how things started at the age of 23. Well, it didn't start at the age of 23, but at 23, it was when it was discovered.
And so you ended up, you know, you talked about your family, and the one thing your mom said was basically, you've got to take responsibility for this. She did not let you off the hook.
Yeah. Let me say, let's say, you know, I'm a mom now, and I cannot imagine telling my child or my kids, I have two, that you have to do this. I can't imagine how hard it was for her to say this to me. But I grew up where right is right, wrong is wrong. You knew that was wrong, and now you're going to have to face the consequences. And my parents have always said, especially my mom, if you make your bed hard, you're going to have to lie in it. And I didn't realize physically that I was going to have to lie in my bed in prison for 3 years. But that's exactly what happened. Essentially, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. And then so let's fast forward a bit, because you were there for 3 long years. At what point, do you remember, was there a point that you decided, because you could have taken either path, right? Like you could have gone either way. So at what point did you decide, like, I'm going to take this path instead and kind of work on my issues and move forward in that direction, a positive direction?
So I'll say this, when I went to prison, it didn't happen overnight that my mindset changed, right? And I want everybody also to understand that prior to me leading to actually go to self-surrender, I self-surrendered, where my mom actually drove me to the prison. But prior to that moment of self-surrendering, I tried to commit suicide. I literally tried to take my own life, several thoughts, and I tried to act upon them 3 times. And each time they were failed attempts. And I shared this with Carol yesterday, that I am so grateful. I don't want anyone to think that I'm happy that I did what I did, because no, I wasn't happy, because it wasn't right, and it was wrong. I'm happy that at the time that I committed my crime, that social media wasn't what it is today. Because I attempted to commit suicide and I failed, I probably would have been very successful now. Because of the social media, the highlights, the media following me to every court appearance, how they even knew that I was getting ready to go to court, it just behooves me. I didn't even know how they know, but there was always a crowd. It was always running on the news. I was in such a dark place. And so prior to me self-surrendering, I didn't want to. I'll never forget the drive from Clewiston, where I'm from, going to Tallahassee, which is where I self-surrendered at the Federal Correctional Institution in Tallahassee, Florida. It was at least a 7.5, 8-hour drive. And I'll never forget the night before we were getting ready for me to turn myself in, I cried to my mother. I was like, I don't want to go. And she said, Yolanda, you're going to have to go. Because if you don't, those people are going to come looking for you. And this is a conversation that her and I have every so often, because I can't imagine my mother telling me this. Like, I can't imagine saying this to my children. I can't imagine telling my kids, like, I have to take you into prison because of something you did when you know you shouldn't have been doing it. We didn't send you to school to go and do these things. We sent you to school for you to go to school, not to engage in anything illegal. So I knew better, right? But that was one of the hardest things, I'm sure, for her. And she shared that before. But when I got to prison, it didn't happen overnight that my mindset changed. That did not happen. What happened was there was a moment that I have a brother that's now a police officer. He's been a police officer for several years, but prior to him being a police officer, he worked for the state prison system and he worked as a correctional officer. His sister is getting ready to self-surrender to prison. And what happened is my mom, I'm sure I say this all the time, we kid about this all the time, that my mom called my brother and told him, you're not working a morning shift. You're going to work a third shift so that you can be home in the daytime, so that when visitation hours occur, you can be there to visit your sister to get her out of the unit. So that's what happened. My brother visited me every single visitation. One particular visitation while I was in prison, another roommate or a bunkie or another inmate was having a visit with her family. And while we were having our visit, I seen her there with her family. I don't know who she was because you're not allowed to engage and communicate with other inmates while they're visiting with their family. After a visit, we go through, checks the security system for them to check us before we are released back into the unit. And that occurs so that they can ensure that there's no contraband being slipped back in through the unit or to the prison system through inmates. And I get back into my unit, get settled down or whatever. And it's before we're standing up for count. And my friend, she was like a sister to me, came over to me and she says, so my brother was visiting me from Pensacola, who goes to school in Atlanta. And he, was very interested in you and wanted to know if he can write you while you're in prison. And I was like, write who? And she said he wants to engage in a conversation with you. He likes you. He thinks you're cute. He doesn't know why you're here. I told him that you didn't kill anyone. I just wanted him to know that. And I was just saying to her, I said, your brother wants to write me? I'm in prison. And she was like, I know, he knows. We know that, Yolanda. He likes you, and it was at that moment, that I realized that I wasn't, ugly, you know what I mean? And that, wow, if a guy that is not in prison coming to visit his sister who is in prison saw that I was like cute on the eyes, and he's out in the free world, then I'm not as bad as I thought. And at that point, that was a turning point for me. I'm not going to say it happened immediately at that moment, but that was a turning point for me to know that, wow, okay, so it's not as bad as you think it is. And slowly over time, I began to change my mindset.
So let's fast forward a little bit, because you get out of prison and you end up in a halfway house. And your experience, it's really interesting because a lot of people don't understand what that transition is like. And you had, prison was a roadblock, and then you get to the halfway house and you face even more roadblocks. Tell us a little bit about that experience and kind of how you ended up getting to your second chance there.
Awesome. Yes. So just so everyone, in case there's anyone that's listening is not familiar, briefly, a lot of times when you're being released from prison, they send you to a halfway house, and that is for you to re-enter back into society. That's where you are set up with an in-house case manager, and their job is to help you navigate through the system to whether you need your driver's license, a job, housing, that's their job to kind of help navigate that. So all this time while I'm incarcerated, I'm thinking, okay, it's getting close to my release date. I'm getting ready to get home. I'm going to go to the halfway house. I'm going to get a job. You're thinking all these things because in my mind, I'm smart. I mean, I did go to college. I didn't finish, but I went to college, so I'm pretty smart. I'm not going to have a problem getting a job. Not me, not Yolanda, but boy, was I wrong. I get to the halfway house. I'm excited. I'm anxious. I'm very optimistic about everything. And then I get paired up with the case manager who obviously just her and I just did not click. And I think it has everything to do with what she read in my file about what I did that landed me in prison, and not getting a chance to know who Yolanda was. And so I did what everyone else did. I got there and got access to the computer. I went online, registered for Career Builder, Monster.com, and started calling, trying to get jobs and trying to get appointments, interviews. I did all of that. And I remember I'm going on my first interview. I had to catch the city transportation bus. All this was new to me. And I get on my first job. I sign in at Spearing Staffing Agency. I'll never forget. And I'm sitting there, signed in. I had the clipboard filling out the paperwork, and their phone rang. And while the phone is where the reception is at, I'm sitting right in front of her. She picks up the phone. "Thank you for calling Spearing Staffing Company. This is whoever. How can I help you?" And you can hear through the receiver, this lady says, "Hi, my name is Lori. I am a case manager with the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I'm calling to see if my federal inmate Yolanda is there for her interview." And in my mind, I'm filling out a paper and I get nervous because I'm like, did I just hear what I think? And of course, eyes are looking. She must have sent an email in-house to whoever was getting ready to interview me. They came out and they said, "Thank you so much for coming for the interview. I'm so sorry this position has already been filled." And I thought, okay, well, why didn't nobody come tell me that when I was sitting here? And then I asked if there was anything else I was could be considered for, that I was able to do any type of receptionist jobs. I can answer phones, I can do whatever. And I was told no, they didn't have anything. So this particular scenario repeatedly happened each time I went out for an interview. It did not just happen to myself. It happened to a lot of people, but it happened more to me. And I found myself filling out hundreds of applications. I say 250 something, but it could have been way more. It was probably way more than that. I went on every interview, and every interview that I went on, I was told no. No.
How did you make it through that? In other words, why didn't you give up at that point? Facing
Carol,
such like adversity.
Carol, let me tell you, I did. I gave up in my tears at night, when you're crying, because you're thinking, how am I supposed to make this work? How am I supposed to get a job and nobody wants to hire me? And then one's going to ever hire me if she keeps calling this place, telling them people that an inmate is there. Why can't she just say, why does she have to call, period? I'm not trying to go back to prison. I'm not trying to violate. But what happened was I had been there right at 30 days. And when you're being released back into the society and you're at the halfway house, you have to pay rent there. In essence, you have to pay a percentage to be there. And I didn't have a job, so I couldn't pay my part or my percentage. And so I was in the process of being violated. And you get violated if you can't find a job. So what happens is that I had 7 days left or a week left to find a job, or they were going to send me back to the prison. And so, here you are, you're out, finally did your time. You thinking that, okay, I did a crime, paid my time, I'm back in society. But then I'm also faced with these hurdles after one after another. And I remember going into my room, and my roommate was, I don't know where she was, but she came in and she said, "What are you crying for?" And I was like, "They're going to send me back. Lori's going to violate me and send me back to prison." And she was like, "For what?" And I was like, "I don't have a job." And so she said, "Don't worry about it. Stop crying. When I go to work later today, I'm going to tell my boss, Les, to pull your application. In the meantime, go to Goodwill Industries, fill out a job application to work at my store." And she wrote all the information down. And so the next day I went to see my case manager, but she wasn't there. So I had to see another case manager, and he gave me a pass because I had to get permission to leave this facility to go apply for a job at Goodwill Industries. And that's where my life changed.
Yeah. So tell me about that. I mean, it really did. And it wasn't, you still had hurdles, obstacles kind of put in your way, but that second chance and the woman who gave you the second chance, it really changed your life.
Yeah, she did. What I want everyone to know is that prior to me telling my roommate with the crying situation in our room, I had literally just left my case manager's office, and she was telling me that I had 7 days to find a job, or they were going to or she was going to violate me. And one of the things that she said in the conversation was like, "What is it that you're looking for? All these jobs, and what is it that you're looking for?" And I said, "I'm just trying to find an office job. just something in the office because I didn't want to work in the heat. You know, it was my preference, right? And so she said that the closest that I would ever get to working in somebody's office is if I was cleaning it. And so, you know, it's one thing to kick somebody when they're down, you know, when you're already down, but to kick you more, it's woo. If I wanted to give up, that would have been the time to want to give up, right? But I didn't. My roommate Johanna came in there and said what she said. So the next day, I got a bus pass to go to Goodwill Industries, and I went to Goodwill, filled out the application, and I'm on a bus pass trying to get back to catch my bus so I don't violate from being not on time. And as I'm leaving out after filling out the application, the HR generalist that was there at the time, Hope, ran out the doors and said, excuse me, can I ask you a question real quick about your application? And I was like, sure. And I was like, please let me hurry up. And so I walked back in, and then I just kind of said, listen, I really need to catch the bus. And she says, I understand you're at the halfway house. And I was just like, how do you know? And she says, because they hire a lot of individuals that come from the halfway house. And so we went back to the office, and she asked me one question, and she said, your application says that you speak Spanish fluently. Is that true? And I said, yes. And then she wanted to know how I knew how to speak Spanish. And I said, because when I was 15 years old, I had the opportunity to go to Argentina as an exchange student for 14 months. And that's how I learned how to speak Spanish. And at the time that I was in the office filling out the application at Goodwill Industries, they were looking for a Spanish translator in their HR department for their onboarding of the employees that were not Spanish speaking, that were Spanish speakers. And so I just happened to be there at the right time. And I shared this with Carol yesterday that, you know, things happen in our life that we don't know. And I truly believe that my life was guided. And I truly believe that these things happened to me. I knew I knew that it was in destiny for me to do what I had to do to go to Argentina, not knowing that I would need that experience later down in life. And I guess God said to me, I'm going to equip her because she's going to make some mistakes in her life, but I want her to be prepared. And I want her to go through these things, but she's going to already be equipped with enough energy to not give up. And, you know, I credit to a lot of the things that I went through. And I was excited. She said, my boss is not here. I'm going to have to speak with Becky and get back with you, but I would like to offer this job to you unofficially. Went back to the halfway house. I was excited. I have a job. I told my case manager the next day, and she said, no, you cannot work here. You cannot work there. You cannot work in the office because your crime is a white collar crime. And Miss Becky, who was on vacation, happened to be in the area. She just was like on a staycation, came into work, called, left a message for me to call her back. And she said, I want to hire you. And my case manager said no. And then my probation officer initially said no. But Miss Becky, this lady who did not know me from a can of paint, fought for me to have a second chance because of her son who had experienced some setbacks.
Yeah, we feel suffer setbacks. I think we can either be bitter or sometimes develop compassion. And it sounds like she just developed compassion and really stepped up. And I think about, you know, your life and maybe other women who are in your position who didn't get that chance. And, you know, just how that one moment, that one person really changed everything for you.
Miss Becky, I call her Mama B. Her and I are very close to this day. Miss Becky actually changed the trajectory of my life.
Does your former halfway house counselor know what you've done with your life since then?
I'll say this. I'll say this. It doesn't pay to be mean. And there was a moment when I had been working at Goodwill Industries. Our receptionist at the time, Miss Norma, was on vacation. So everyone in HR had to take turns sitting up in the front, answering the phones. And also at Goodwill Industries, I'm pretty sure it's still going on. We had a voucher department that provided vouchers to individuals that needed clothes, food. And one particular day, I was covering the front. It was my day to cover the front. Even though I worked in HR, I covered the front. And an older lady came up to the front receptionist job. It had been maybe about 3 years since I had been out of the halfway house. And she was there for a voucher. And I looked at her and I knew at that moment that God had really changed me, because it was my case manager. And I could have told her, no, we don't have any more vouchers, because you best to believe, Carol, I wanted to tell her no. And I told her, have a moment, have a seat, and we're going to get you the vouchers that you need.
Wow. I mean, that's really powerful for you to be able to kind of to turn the other cheek, if you will, and to kind of be a bigger person and not tell her. And I think, you know, it's such a powerful moment and a powerful story. And I'm wondering, how did you, so she knew your story, but yet you still had to navigate, and you still have to navigate your past. And so I'm wondering what your advice is for people, employers who might be looking for employees or to give somebody a second chance. And what is your advice to them, you know, and how to kind of navigate this? Because this could be a really uncomfortable situation, I would think, for everybody involved.
Yes. You know, I understand that, you know, the word, first of all, applications today are prepared with this question on the box. And that question is, have you ever been convicted of a crime? Some of them ask, have you ever been convicted of a felony? And listen, I get it. I would want to know if someone's been convicted of a crime, so that I know if they need, if they can't even be in the position or the department. I get that. I'm not saying that employers need to turn the other cheek and act like the question is not there. And I'm also not saying, and I also don't agree with anyone that lie on their application. I definitely think that you definitely should be honest. I do believe that the conversation needs to be had across the board with everyone in HR and anyone that's in a position of hiring, to maybe not always just assume that because they check yes, that they've done something horrible. Because while I was incarcerated, some of the most professional individuals taught some of the classes that many of the inmates learned. You have, you know, from your professionals, accountants, former attorneys, anyone that you can think of that you come in contact with on a daily basis is in prison. And no, I do not agree that every crime and every person should go to prison. Do I believe that I should have went to prison? No. Do I believe I should be held responsible? Yes. Do I wish that I had my judge would have said, she is young. My goodness, this girl has made a huge mistake. If I send her to prison, this can really alter her life. Why don't I do something that could minimize that and make her learn a lesson? Because I'm gonna be very honest, the moment they slapped handcuffs on me, I was rehabilitated. Like, I knew what I did was wrong. The conversation about employers is it is an ongoing conversation. You have to look at the individuals that are in place. You got to look at the key players, and you got to look, you know, some of the individuals that are in positions to make hiring positions or hiring offers have never done anything before in their life. They've done exactly what they're supposed to do. Go to school, go to college, or whatever the case may be, and they're stand-up citizens. And so you cannot ask someone who has never been impacted by the system because they've done everything right to you know, fold and just be sympathetic. It's hard. And so this is not a conversation that can be had in 2 minutes. This is something that has to happen over time. And I think what everyone has to do is say, how can we play a part in providing second chances? Because not only are former inmates that are coming back, re-entering back into society, are looking for jobs. You have high school dropouts, you have college students, you have, you know, older individuals that are returning back to the job. You have into the workforce. You have a lot of people that are applying for these limited positions. And so how do you handle this? And so, you know, I think that there just needs to be a lot of more sympathy, but, you know, you can't ask an employer to have sympathy if, you know, they've never done anything like this before. But I just think the conversation needs to be open where everyone can have a dialogue, and I think that it needs to continue. One of the things that I do when I come in contact with someone that's getting ready to go to prison, and I know it sounds weird, or when someone reaches out to me to say, hey, I'm getting ready to self-surrender, I'm getting ready to go to prison. One of the things that I encourage them to do, which is what I had to learn to do after the fact, is if you're going to go to prison, if you're there for a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, I know this sounds like a long time, but you need to get yourself involved in some type of trade while you're there for free. Meaning learn construction, learn landscaping, learn HVAC, learn electrical, learn something and learn it and master it while you're there, so that when you're released, if no one wants to hire you, at least you can say, okay, well, I have these skills and qualifications, I can do this myself. Or you can go on a job and say, listen, I know I've checked yes on this box, but let me tell you what I did while I was incarcerated. These are the things I have. No, I don't have a standard resume. My resume is from prison, but in prison, I did X, Y, and Z. And, that's what I tell everyone. That's what I say. These are the things that you need to do. If you're going to go to prison, you need to go and you need to master something.
One thing that really strikes me is you own it. I mean, you not just took responsibility by doing time, but you've taken responsibility. You don't make excuses. You really do own it and you're upfront about it, which is so admirable. But you take it one step further, by being really public about it. And I'm wondering where you found the courage and where you find the courage to do that, because I would imagine that sometimes when you tell your story, people judge you, like probably right out of the gates before you even get to tell them who you are.
Yeah, that happens a lot. I shared with you yesterday a situation. I'll just say this. Over the years, I have learned to protect my energy, right? Energy is huge for me because I'm such a vibrant person, and I have a loud personality. That's just Yolanda. And this has always been me, even before prison, right? And so, in the beginning, I would be very nervous, very timid about saying anything. For a very long time, I didn't share with anyone that I had been incarcerated. I was just like, okay, good. I try to avoid the answer situation. But what happened is that my sister ended up having a daughter. And what was important for me is that she knew in the beginning how beautiful she is and that she's pretty. And I just, I got to thinking, man, my mom did the best that she could with us. Our parents did the best that they could with us. But there could have been more done, right? And I don't want my niece. And then she had another girl. And then she had another girl. And I was just like, oh my God, I don't want my nieces to have to experience this. I went to prison. That's enough for everyone in the entire generational family to have to deal with this. None. No one else should have to experience this. And so that's what allowed me to open up and begin to share my story. And I've just learned that there are going to just be some people that are just going to be mean, and they are not going to care about my outcome and how I am today. They're just going to be who they are. And if I could walk around and just throw happy glitter on them, I would, but you can't, right? So I've just learned to just protect my energy and share my story, because no matter how many people I share it to, there's always going to be one that either is being impacted by it directly that you may not know of, or they may know someone that's going through it. And they're going to say, man, you've given me something to be able to share with them, so that they know that even though they're getting ready to go through this, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, because there is.
And what you've done is you've built up quite a bank of resiliency. And I'm wondering if you can offer us any advice. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and a lot of people have pandemic fatigue. And, it's hard because there's good vaccine news, but yet we really don't know where the end of it is. And so I'm wondering what advice you have for everybody in trying to kind of just get through this, and how you dug deep, and where you find your resiliency, and what you can tell us to help us kind of get through this, considering what you've been through in your life.
This is what I say to anyone. My motto is this: it is this, and it will always be this, is to use your adversity to create an opportunity. It's for a lot of people, that is a very challenging time right now. It is. I have friends who have lost jobs. I have families that have been, their family dynamics have changed because of this. And, what I tell anyone that comes in, that I come in contact with is, and I've said this and I echo this and I will continue to echo this, is to always have something prepared. And what I mean by that is, I'm a huge advocate for entrepreneurship. I'm a huge advocate that entrepreneurship is not a full-time thing for everyone. However, I do feel, and I do agree, and I strongly advocate that you should always have something prepared, because you never know. And what I mean by that is, if you are a crafty person, and I want everyone to listen to me this and listen to this good, it doesn't matter if you work full-time for any company, always have something prepared. For example, you can be the craftiest person. You may love to crochet, because I learned how to crochet when I was in prison. And it's not something that I enjoy doing. It was something that I did to pass time by, right? But there is someone that may know someone, or someone that may be on this Zoom call right now that may be a great crafty person, and you may still work a full-time job, and that is fine. But if I was you, I would take my cell phone, prop it up in a space, and I would say, hey guys, my name is Yolanda, and I love to do crochet. I'm going to show you the needle that I'm using today, and I'm going to crochet this. And you create a channel, YouTube or space or something, so that because someone is going to say, oh my gosh, I love this. This is a cute blanket. Maybe I can have this for my daughter for Christmas or whatever. And you say, oh, okay, well, how much do you charge for this? Oh, I charge $65 for this. Oh, great. What I'm saying is, create something that you can potentially use for residual. This times right now is where people will have to dig deep. And when I mean dig deep, I mean you're going to have to dig deep to be sustainable. And also times like this is when huge corporations are made. This is when small brands explore. You know what I did during the pandemic? I launched my brands, right? But 2 of them I sat on. Swimming caps kept going. And I said, when my daughter went into the store with my daughter and I went to the store, she said, Mommy, I want some new underwear. Okay, and that's fine. But I don't want those, Mommy. I want to do the ones that we have at the house. Why can't you just finish up the ones at the house? Okay, well, we can. And what that told me was that I had been sitting on something because I was so focused on one thing, and I could have been doing this. And what I did during the pandemic was I said, here, let me give Undies by Blended Tone a platform. Not because they have Black kids on them, right? Not just because of that, but because let me create a space, right? Let me create a space that mainstream media doesn't always look at. Let me create a space right now to give somebody something happy about. And so, yeah, crocheting may sound boring, right? But it may not be boring to everybody. And so when I mean you're going to have to dig deep, you're going to have to dig deep to find out how you're going to create something sustainable, how you're going to create something that's residual to keep it going. And no, it doesn't have to be full-time, because I don't agree that everyone is all for full-time entrepreneurship. But I do agree that everyone should always have something prepared. And my motto for today and every day is to always use your adversity to create an opportunity. Bottom line.
And how do you, for a lot of people though, like taking that first step, that initial step is the hardest step to take. And now, like particularly doing it in a pandemic when there's so much stress and anxiety and there's so much unknown. So what is your advice for people to kind of get over that, whatever it is, their anxiety, their fear, and kind of just do it? How do we push ourselves to just do it and take that first step?
Taking the first step is always the easiest. Taking the first step to want to exercise. You want to, we say, oh, I want to lose weight. I want to lose weight. But then you never do anything about it. Taking that first step is always the hardest. But I promise you, the way you take that first step is, let's go back to this crochet. You take the first step. Where's my crochet needles? You don't even say anything. What you can just say is turn your phone on, hit your video, and just start crocheting. Whatever it is that you're good at, whatever it is that you want to do. That's how you take the first step, by just trying. No, it's not going to be perfect. You take the first step by looking at somebody like Yolanda and saying, oh my gosh, this girl has all kinds of issues and challenges that she's faced. I don't have nothing nowhere near as close as that. And if she can do it, I can do it. Someone's listening right now. It's like, I want to speak. Well, speak. We don't know that you can't speak because you're not speaking. So speak. you know, you just take the first step by just taking the first step. Of course, it's uncomfortable, but after a while, over time, it gets easier. Like, you know, repetition, it gets easy. It gets easier. It's how you take the first step.
And is that how I mean, I'm wondering how you built your confidence. Because when I see the woman I see today, you know, you're warm, you're bubbly, you know, you've started your own businesses, you've gotten your doctorate degree, you know, so you went from a 23-year-old with low self-esteem to kind of this superstar. And I'm wondering how you built your confidence along the way.
Over time.
Or where that started, yeah.
You know how? Because I went into the mirror. Because when I was in prison, I told you that all it took was that my Nikki, my old roommate in prison, to tell me that her brother had a crush on me, like he wanted to write me in prison. Your brother who's out in this free world want to write me? Okay, yeah, right. What I did was I would go into the mirror. It didn't matter who was looking because we all shared this bathroom together, you know. I would just be like, Yolanda, you are somebody, you know, and I would say it to myself. But just like with anything, when you hear it the first time, you're like, you don't feel confident in yourself when you say it. But after a while, you do. And even to this day, Carol, before I go speak, even to this day, before I go on a platform on someone's stage, even to this day, I go into the bathroom, I find myself a secret place and I dig deep and I have to remind myself who I am. I have to remind myself that I know without a shadow of a doubt that I can do anything I put my mind to. I don't need anyone to validate that for me because I know. And you know how I know it's working? It's because when I see my kids or my daughter in her room saying, I am this and I can do this. And I'm like, who are you talking to? Oh, just myself, mommy. It's working. It works. It works.
It does work. You mean you have to believe in yourself and you can't, you know, kind of internalize some of that external negativity. And we have a question here and it's a very good one. The question is, do you mentor women who are currently in prison?
So here's the thing. I don't just mentor women who are currently in prison. I write women who are in prison. I know what it's like to be away from family and not have mail or to make a phone call. And one of the most important things is to hear your name at mail call when you're incarcerated. And one of the things that I do is myself and two other women, we make it a priority to write women that are in prison.
And here's another question, and this is something that you and I touched on privately yesterday. I was shocked when I found out what you had done, that you had spent 3 years in federal prison. I was shocked. I mean, a college student, no record. And we talked about that a little bit. It really does raise the question about how you were treated and how, you know, how people of color in general are treated in the criminal justice system. And that's what this question pertains to. And it says, how do you think your story fits into calls for reform and the impact of our criminal justice system on people of color?
Yes. One of the things that I'm very proud of is to be part of criminal justice reform here locally in the area. And one of the things that Carol and I had shared with Carol yesterday was that I truly believe that it all starts on a local level. It's no secret. Let's just discuss the elephant in the room, right? It's no secret that people of color tend to receive severe sentences compared to individuals that are white. And it's no secret. The thing is that it's a lot of attention now that's on it, more focus is on it, more heightened. It's being discussed, but it needs to be discussed. And so when I have a conversation with someone, I will tell them immediately, you know, the way we can change these things it's being involved, and how you become involved is get involved on a local level and get out at these meetings that they're having when they're having these local judges being reappointed or up for review or whatever the case may be. It's very important that we, you know, be involved. One of the things that I silently struggle with is the fact that I've always wanted to go to law school. That was something that I've always wanted to do. I chose to pursue my doctorate instead. And then once I graduated with my doctorate, I made a comment to my husband and said, man, did you know? I just filled out an application for this law program and they accepted me. I said it just to see what he would say. And he looked at me like, don't even go there. Not that he wouldn't support me, but he was like, you just finished, you know. But one of the things that I, you know, when I hear people or when I, you know, have someone that's young in high school and they're saying, I'm getting ready to graduate. I'm getting ready to go to school, to college, and I want to be an attorney. How can I better fit my community? What can I do? And I always say this, be true to yourself, but if you're going to do it, get in it and become involved, get involved in anyone. It doesn't matter if you are formerly incarcerated, you can still be involved. And so how I feel about the current guidelines is that the sentencing guidelines, if you look at the federal sentencing guidelines, I don't know about the state, but the federal sentencing guidelines need to be reviewed, and they are. It took quick implement for it to go into place, but it's taken forever for it to be reversed because not every sentence is the same. And I do know that my sentence, while it is severe and it was harsh in a sense, 3 years, there were other women who were not like me or did not look like me who had less time than I did. And so, yes, you are upset, you are frustrated, but there was nothing that you can do at the time. So, there's a lot of work within criminal justice reform. It's being done, but there's still more work to be done.
Right. And I'm just looking at another comment here, and it's something that struck me before too. And basically, I think, for every woman like you, there've got to be hundreds of women who have either, gone back and done something else wrong because there was no path forward. And I think about all of those women and the fact that your story is astounding because you went to this halfway house where they were supposed to help you reintegrate into society, and here they placed more obstacles in your way. And I think, you had the drive and determination, but you said, like, there were times you cried, and I imagine that it would have been really easy for you to kind of give up and say, fine, I will clean offices. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not what your dream was. And you could easily have kind of ended up in that place.
Let me add to that, Carol. But let me just tell you this though: had I cleaned up, I would have owned the company that cleaned it up. So like that's how my brain was thinking. Yes, what my case manager said to me was a low blow, and I shared all the time. And I know I don't know what made her say that. I can't speak for her because I don't know what was going through her mind at the time. What I do know is that my story is being shared. There's hundreds of women just like me that is experiencing exactly what I've experienced, whose story doesn't get told. And so I'm doing everything that I can to be a voice for those that don't have a voice because they don't have a platform. And so I'm only doing what I know how, and that's to share this information. Is to just let people know that these things do exist, and how you can help change this is by being involved, getting on some of these community boards, and just challenging some of the decisions that have been in place forever. We're in 2020, things have changed. Let's relook at some of these things and see how we can redirect focus in a better direction.
This has been such a pleasure. Your message is so powerful. And I know there have been some chats on the screen too saying just that. And it's just been so nice to get to meet you and to have the pleasure of talking with you today. And Nicole, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. This has just been a really fantastic program and just a fantastic talk, Yolanda.